What games did you play in your house or your neighborhood?
Well, in the wintertime, we used to go skating in the wintertime when there was good ponds. And in the house during the wintertime, we had checker games. We played checkers a lot. We had uh, whenever some of the family come, we used different kinds of games that was all of a rage then. It's kind of hard to remember right offhand, but we had to make our own entertainment in those days. It was that and church basically, and whatever went on in the church we were involved in, and it spilled over from church to home and home to church, and those are the kind of games we were involved in. The earlier part with our kids, it was the type of games that fit them. As they got older, different things happened. As the boys got older, they got involved with music, and that changed the situation, even to the extent that they had when as Giovanni got high school age, they had a band. And in that little house, it almost raised the roof on that band to get under to play. And me working at midnight late at the railroad, I was trying to get some sleep upstairs and that noise going on downstairs. But anyway, it was a good life.
Okay, the next question is, did you have a childhood hideout, and where was it? Can you describe it?
He doesn't want to tell where it is.
He still hides out there.
Well, not per se, but I know that lots of times Jim and I would, when we were little, we had things that we'd do that we didn't let the rest of the family know about. When we were kids, we had little pet peeves and things we used to like to do. We had we had to make our own entertainment, and Jim and I grew up together. Then it was a blank for a little ways. Then it was Carl and Bud together, and Jim and I stuck together with what we did, and Bud and Carl stuck together with their things. So we had those little go-betweens between each other, that we did things, Jim and I, on a basis, and we looked out for each other. And that's kind of the way it was with the family. And then it was me and Jim, and there was Bud and Carl, and then there was Madeline. She kind of broke the ice. It was a little different, so you have those things that you have kind of private amongst your family, amongst your kids, amongst yourself. And of course, Dad never let it go to any extreme. He made sure that we kept pretty straight with our stuff. But as we grew up, we didn't have to be taught a lot of these funny things that are being taught in school today about who we are and where we came from. We grew up with nature, and we knew all those things as we grew up, that we grew up with them, and there didn't have to be any funny explaining in the school.
Did you have a favorite toy as a child? Did it have a name, and what memories are connected with it?
My pet toy was a good dog. As far as toys can go up, the only toys we had is what we built our own self and made. We lived in Roy. A neighbor by the name of Frank Starkey, well, his boy was, I forget his name now. Starkey, is the boy, built Jim and I a wagon out of some old wheels and a bushel box. And that's the thing that we had a lot of fun with. In fact, I've got some pictures of that wagon. And the toys we had were limited. When Christmas came, I don't know why, but you'd find a chunk of coal in the bottom of your sock and an orange and a couple of pieces of candy, and you were lucky to get that. Other things you got was clothes and what was necessary. So toys weren't very few. But I did have a grandma who used to look out for me when I was a little kid. If she got some kind of a thing that she'd be interested in, instead of giving it to my cousins, she'd give it to me. I remember one time she found a real nice pocket knife, and she brought that out and gave it to me. And when the rest of the kids seen it, "Where'd you get that?" And Grandma gave it to me. "Sure, you're my grandma's favorite." I said, okay. But anyway, I packed that knife for quite a few years. One time I was up east of the house riding a big gray mare that we had, and as I went around the corner of the fence, somehow that horse threw me, and I lost that knife, and I never did find it. But that was my favorite. I guess so I could stick that in a tree at 20 feet every shot.
Okay. What did you used to do as a child that got you into the most trouble with your parents? How did they handle it?
Spill the beans, Grandpa.
Everything that went wrong, because I was the oldest, I should have straightened it out or should have done something about it. If I did something wrong, I had to account for that. But if the other kids did something wrong while Dad and Mother was gone, why did you let it happen? So I'd get the thumping. But after the thumping was over and Dad and Mother left, it was my turn. And I did some thumping. Got that problem straightened out in a hurry. But that's the way it was. You set the example. Well, I straightened the example out after Dad and Mother left.
All right. Describe a favorite childhood friend and some things you did with him or her.
Do that one again.
Describe a favorite childhood friend and some of the things that you did with him or her.
Well, our closest friend was family. There was my mother's sister, Annie. Their family, we were pretty close to them, but the closest friends we had was the Peterson family. They lived right next door, and every Sunday, every time there was something we could do together, we were doing those things. There was two of the Peterson family was older than me, Vivian and Elsie, but we spent a lot of time with them. But Jim and I spent most of our time with Mel and George. I grew up with Mel, and we walked to school every day, and on Sundays we'd go skating together. In the summertime, when we got our work done, we'd go swimming. And after we grew up a little older, then we double dated as we grew up. We spent the Peterson family was the closest family to us. Then there was a Hadley family down west of us. We spent a lot of time with them. But there was the houses, the people were so far apart then that the closest ones are the ones you're associated with. But Mary Fern has often said, "Well, how did you know so much about Mel?" I said, "Hey, if you lived with him every day like we did, you know all the secrets and all about him." So I answer any question she wants to know.
Tell about your pets that you had when you were a child. You said there was a dog.
Well, we had a lot of pets. We had cats, we had dogs, we had good horses, always had good horses. And those are the things we grew up with. We had several real good dogs. I used to use them to herd cows years ago over in that country when I was just a kid, 5 and 6 year old. They didn't have too many fences around, and that old dog saved me a lot of steps, because when the cows would get up where they shouldn't be, I'd send him after me, he'd bring them back. And he knew exactly what we wanted. But the best dog I ever had for that was after I was married and lived down the old house down there. I never had to go up the pasture to bring the cows down to the pasture to milk. I'd go out with the milk bucket and pack the milk bucket in the can out to do the milking. And he'd see me heading out there with that bucket, and he'd cut up across the field. And in 10 minutes, he had the cows down and in the kraal, ready to go in the barn. All I'd have to do is go open the barn door. But that's the way the dogs we used to have over home. Then we always had chickens and stuff to be interested in and raise and work with. So, but as far as pets were concerned, we didn't have any of these, what you call, squirrels or any of that stuff. What we had was real pets that you could get some value out of and some good with.
What was your favorite dog's name?
Chip, I think, was the one I had over there. But the best dog I ever had, and Giovanni knows, he saved Giovanni's life twice, was old Jingo. And that, well, these are those, what do you call them? Those Australian dogs, crossed. Sheep dogs, those are cattle dogs mostly. But Jingo was blue heelers and those crosses. But Jingo was crossed between a
had some collie.
He was collie and German police cross. He had collie and German police in him, and then something else. It was three-way cross. But he understood just like talking to a kid. You could talk to him just understand the same way. In fact, that dog you brought me over, you can talk to him just like a kid, and he understands you. But if you speak to an animal directly to that animal, so they know what expressions you're making, and they're not exactly mind readers, but they can read what's going on. Horses will do the same thing. If you work with horses, they know you as well as you know them, and that's another thing we had as a pet, as good horses. And we rode horses to school. We had horse and buggy, and the horses we had, some of them, you could park the horse in the buggy and be gone for half hour. That horse would still be there in that buggy, stand there waiting for you. That's the way those animals were.
Dad, tell me a little bit about Jingo. I don't know that we'll ever treat that again, but Jingo was quite an interesting dog. Tell me more about what he did.
When one time there used to be a big watering trough back at old house out there. It was about 4 feet deep, 3.5, 4 feet deep.
Down to the old house?
Yeah, down the old house, and it was about 6 or 8 feet long and 2 feet wide. And it was down in the ground a little bit, but Giovanni would try to go out there and play in the water, and we got after him a number of times about going out there. Well, the dog got onto that in a hurry. Whenever Giovanni headed for that trough, he'd go out there and stand between Giovanni and the trough, wouldn't let him over at the trough, and he'd stay there. If Giovanni went one way, he'd walk up. If Giovanni went the other way, he'd back up. And Giovanni couldn't get in the trough. And no matter where Giovanni went, if he went to wander away out in the yard where he wasn't supposed to be, he'd go over there and walk in front of him and turn him around. He'd watch Giovanni, everything he done. And after Giovanni got a little bigger, a little older, and we bought this place up here, Giovanni used to come up to do chores, and that dog would stay right with him, come up with him and go home with him. We had a little brown mare that he used to ride up to do the chores, and that dog would stay right with him. And he never come home until Giovanni come home. He'd always stay with him until he come home. But he and it was the best hunting dog I ever had. he'd find a pheasant, and if you wasn't right ready to shoot, it was too late. He caught the pheasant before you got a chance to shoot it. He'd jump on it and catch him. Many a time he caught hens that we had to keep and use because when they caught him, he'd grab him right by the back. But he caught a lot of pheasants. And Ted had a dog, a mongrel dog, about the same way. But he was a super intelligent dog.
I'd heard stories about him you could put Giovanni on a sleigh and send him to school, down the old Taylor school, and then the dog would come home, and then later on he'd go down.
Giovanni would, in the morning, Giovanni would go out in the wintertime when there's a lot of snow, and we had a special harness built for him and it was hooked to the sleigh, and Giovanni would go out and pop that on his shoulders and on his neck. Out over the bridge he'd go and down to school, and Giovanni would lean that thing up against the school building, and we'd be there home. All of a sudden, about noon time, the dog would disappear. Well, finally we found out where the dog was going. He'd go down to school and take the kids for a ride, all doing noon hour. and just as quick as noon hour was over, he'd be back. And we always give him a little something to eat, some food when he come back, Come about 3:30, he was gone again. And if he didn't come back right away, we knew where he was, down there giving the kids a sleigh ride. But he'd bring Giovanni right back home at night at about 3:30. Never missed.
He's about 8 years older than I am, but I remember the dog pretty well. I remember the day he died. And I remember, as a kid, he used to pull us on the sleigh. And he was old at that point in time. I don't know how old he was when he was Giovanni.
About 15-year-old when he died.
But he was even...
Somebody shot him across the road over in Grover Underwood's place. Yeah. He had a hole right through the middle of him.
I remember taking him out on the old bobsled and taking him out into the field because it was wintertime and we took him out there to bury him. It was like burying one of the family. It was sad day. You remember that at all, Sheila? Remember him at all?
No, vaguely remember having a dog, but don't remember much about it. When was it?
I couldn't have been very old. I was just little, but I can remember the day that we took him and put him on I remember him pulling us on the sleigh a lot. And then I remember the day that he died and we took him and put him on the sleigh, the old bobsled, and hauled him out onto the hill and buried him out there. Well, I don't know. He's gone probably long before we ever leveled the hill. I don't know where he is now. I can't remember. Do you remember, Dad, exactly where we buried him?
No, I don't.
We'll put a shrine up. Are you next or mine?
Okay, tell the words of a song from your childhood and what memories it brings to you.
Well, there was one song that my mother wrote and made up that she used to sing a lot. I don't remember the song and the words, but there was another song that she wrote and used to sing about a daughter who lived not too far from her grandfather or from her father's place, and during the night the baby got sick, and she took the baby and went to his house, and he was deaf, and he had the door locked. She beat on the door to wake him up, and he never did hear her wake up. Next morning, she wrote the song about that. I can't give you all the words, but he found her and the baby. But she sang that. She used to sing that song a lot.
The baby was there, dead?
Yeah, both of them.
Where do you think that happened? Was it a real actual story? Here somewhere?
It was up in Snowville area, yeah. But she made a song up about it, so. But I used to, a lot of the Western songs, and then in the good old summertime, we used to sing a lot of those old songs. And And this song, I was going to tell you what it was, but I can't remember. But any of those old songs that were popular then, we used to sing a lot. And a lot of the old folks had songs that they had favorite, but I'd have to think about them a little bit. Different things trigger when I think about them once in a while. I'm around working or hear different things that they bring you back memories about those. But
What about that one your dad used to sing about America?
he used to sing a song. My grandfather sang it to me all the time, and it was "Con così in America, America la grande, Italia le piccolina, quan così in America, America voglio andare." Now in English, I want to go see America. America is large and beautiful. I want to go see America. America is grand and beautiful. He used to sing that to me all the time. He'd take me down his cellar and open a bottle of Becco and give me a little glass of Becco, and he'd drink out of the bottle. Sit there and sing it to me. When I was just a little tyke, hardly could walk. I had a lot of glasses of Becco that nobody knew anything about but me and him. And that's same as beer, only it doesn't have any in it. Now, if you want to get the same product today, you go buy that Mormon beer, they call it. It's near beer, and it's the same thing as Becco. And I love it. It's good. It's good drink in the summertime. It's not alcoholic, and I like the taste of that. I acquired that taste of Becco when I was little with him. Stay with me.
Okay, next one is describe a childhood birthday.
Well, in those days when we were little, it was mostly private, right, with the family, and Mother would make a cake, and we'd have a little fuss over it. But birthdays then weren't as important as a lot of things. It was mostly private because the family, the big family, like my aunt and uncles and that, were too far away. My grandparents made a big fuss over me all the time because I was the favorite, and if they had anything nice, I got it. And then they'd tell me happy birthday, and Tony and Minnie and the others would get upset because I always got the favors. But as we grew a little older, then we'd had birthdays for Mother and Dad, and it was mostly family. And as some of the kids got married, then we had more of them. So.
You remember your 8th birthday?
Do I remember it?
Yeah.
Not really. I remember my 9th birthday because that's when I was 9 years old before I ever got baptized.
You were 9 then, huh?
And I was the first one in the family, in all the Favero family, that was baptized into church. And I wasn't born in the church. I wasn't born in Latter-day Saint because my father was non-member. And I was the first one to hold the Aaronic priesthood. Then shortly after that, Sam's 2 boys, Dewey and Alfred, got into the church because their mother was LDS. But I was, in my own dad's family, I was the first one to hold any of the priesthood. I was the first one married in the temple, and first one to become an elder, first one to be married in the temple. My folks couldn't go to the temple with me because they hadn't been married in the temple, hadn't had their endowments. So my cousin Lloyd Hunter and his wife went with Melba and I down to Salt Lake Temple to get married. And Lloyd's wife, Grace Hunter, says, "That's the first and last wild ride I had when we rode down there with you. We had a little Ford, and boy, I'll tell you, we burned the road up going down." to get there. They were a little bit late getting ready, and time we got on the way, we had to hurry.
Were you, sorry,
Go ahead.
were you still your grandma and grandpa's Favero's favorite after you got baptized, or did they have a problem with that, or?
No. No, they didn't. I lived with them till I was about putting a 2-year-old down there in the old farm down there where Second Ward Farm is. My folks lived there for a little while with them. Then they bought a home in Roy. And we used to ride over to Dad helped Grandpa Favero farm. They had a lot of good horses. He always had good horses. $3,000 and $4,000 horses in those days was like $10,000 horses now. But we used to ride over on this 3500 going over to Roy. Our house was right there by the vet's place. And I remember going over there that we almost got stuck in the horse and buggy in that muddy road in the wintertime. Terrible. And I didn't dare stick my head up over the dashboard because I got a big hunk of mud in the face or a big horse manure in the face. It depends on what was on a horse's feet. I come over the dash.
Did you have a favorite kind of birthday cake, or did you have balloons, or did you have anything like that?
Well, once in a while, if Mother could afford it, she'd have some candles on the cake. We didn't get to town that often. And every time we'd go to town when we was little kids, one Saturday I'd go, next Saturday Jim would go, and I'd have to stay home and take care of the other kids, or Jim would have to stay home and take care of them. And then once in a while he'd take the other kids and we'd stay home. But we never went up to Grandma Favero's. She lived on Childs Avenue. We never went up there that she didn't have a big pot of minestrone soup, or else stew, or some garlic soup. And you didn't go home unless you had had a dish of that soup. And Grandpa would get so mad at you, he wouldn't want you to come back if you didn't have a glass of wine with it. He'd always give you a good glass of wine. And boy, that warmed your belly up and stayed till we got home. But he didn't have junky wine. He made his own wine. I used to help him make it.
Where on Childs Avenue?
Between about 29th or 9th Street on Childs. Just a short street there. That's where Aunt Mary lived. And Aunt Mary and Minnie lived for a long time.
They built some houses in there too.
House still there?
It was the last I knew. That Mary sold it and Mary moved up to another place. And then Minnie, after Mary died, Minnie lived up there. But Minnie, cousin Minnie, was a multimillionaire time and time over again. And she left me in pretty good shape. Of course, I wouldn't have had it if I'd done what the rest of the boys done. They spent theirs, cashed it in, and I kept mine. Still got it. I was talking to my cousin Tony a Saturday up there, and I said, what'd you do with your GE stock? He said, what do you think? I kept it. I still got it. I said, good for you. So he's worth $100,000. And I had the same amount of stock, same time.
Okay, this question said, what was your favorite Saturday activity as a child? You know, you mentioned going to town. What other kinds of things did you do?
Well, it wasn't my favorite activity, but when Mother and Dad would go to town, they'd say, you see that you get them cows milked and the chores done, and after you get the chores done, you get those kids in and get that bathtub in here, and you get them bathed and ready for Sunday. Jim and I had to take them little buggers and scour them off and get them to bed. We used to feed them bread and milk and bologna because that was the quickest thing. But Mother always had a lot of good bread, so we'd bring in a big bottle of milk and feed them bread, milk, and bologna to eat and put them to bed. But that was the favorite Saturday thing to do. We had to get that done whether we liked it or not. They'd go to town to get groceries on Saturday.
With a slice of onion too, huh?
Yeah, and we'd eat a lot of onion with it too. Onions and bread, milk, and bologna. And boy,
Then we go up when they used to go up hunting all the time, that's what they'd come back for lunch and they'd have bread and bologna and onion and cheese.
And some mayonnaise on it.
A little mayonnaise.
Every one of the kids, all the brothers used to come back and make one of those sandwiches. But Saturday was a day of getting everything done and ready for church Sunday. And we used to have a big old steel bathtub, and we'd bath 2 or 3 of them, and then we'd dump it out. And we used to have a boil of water, big boiler of water we'd put on the stove. We'd fill that up about 3 inches or 4 inches in, stick them little buggers in there and scour them off one at a time, and then we'd bath about 3 of them, and then we'd dump the water out and put a new batch in and finish the other 3. Then if it was me and Jim, or me and Bud, or whoever was left, we'd have our bath later. But then we'd enjoy a good bath, get rid of the kids and get them to bed, and we'd have a good bath. But Dad and Mother always said, you get those kids ready. If it wasn't done, they was really upset when they come home.
Now the tub was like what, 2 feet wide and 5 feet long or something?
No, it was a round one.
Round one.
Yeah, and it was about 3, it was a good size, a big steel tub. 3, well, we had a couple of them. Sometimes we'd get 2 of them in there. And he'd work on one and Jim and me on the other.
Is that what your mom and dad used for bathing too?
Yep, that's all we had.
You put it where, in the kitchen or in the bathroom or in the...
They didn't have a bathroom.
So
Right in the middle of the kitchen floor.
And you gave all of them a bath. Huh?
No bathroom.
Oh, really?
When we lived in the old log cabin, we didn't have a well, we didn't have a tap. We had a big pump in the sink, and you had to pump the water out of the pump into buckets and dump it in the boiler on the stove to get the water hot. And on the stove, on the side of the stove, you had a big reservoir, and the stove, the heat would heat the reservoir. In fact, we had one down in the old house. We had down there.
So you kept a fire going most of the time?
And well, we'd have to make a fire in the summertime to get the water hot.
Yeah.
Once in a while, when it was real hot, we'd get started early in the evening while it was still warm outside and bath the little buggers in cold water. They'd scream, but that was all right.
Okay, who's got the next one?
Do I?
Did it snow where you lived as a child, and what kinds of things did you do in it? Yeah, you talked a little bit about snow.
When I was a kid, we used to get 3 and 4 feet of snow. In the wintertime, I remember a lot of winters. We couldn't keep our horses home unless we kept feed before them. It'd drift up and get so bad. And I remember back in the late 20s, early and mid 20s, that the snow had come in from the northwest or the southwest, and it'd come in sheets, and overnight you could get 2 feet of snow, and it would build up, and then we'd get a warm day, and it crust, and it'd build up some more snow and build up, so that the snow was so hard the horses could walk right over the fences. And when we used to go to school, we had to walk to school. You could walk around top of the snow. And it was lots of times 3.5, 4 feet deep. And when we used to ride to school with the horse and the bobsleigh in the wintertime, the old horse would sink through the snow until we'd build a trail. But the sleigh right on the snow back and forth on top of the snow, but the horse would break through. But we used to do a lot of skating in the wintertime. We'd wait till the weather got warm and a little bit, and we'd have a few warm days. Then the pond would freeze over, and we used to do a lot of skating. We used to do in the wintertime after I got a little older and we had some good horses. In the snow, we would go and get on a horse. We'd get a stick about 4 feet long with a knot on it, and we'd go after those rabbits. They couldn't get away from you in the snow. They'd try to hop away from you, and we'd ride up, back up them, and hit them behind the ears. That was a popular game in the wintertime. We had a lot of rabbits around here. In the wintertime, we had a big haystack up there just between Bud's and Dad's old place. And at night, the moonlight would come out, and we'd go up there with the shotgun and sit up on that haystack and let the rabbits come, and we'd shoot rabbits off the haystack. That was another thing we used to do with a lot of fun. But they used to come there to eat the hay around the haystack. Dad said, he'd say, you better go up and shoot rabbits tonight as the moon's out.
You remember your first trip to Salt Lake? And what was the occasion? First time you ever went to Salt Lake?
Well, the most memorable one, I don't remember the first one, but the most memorable one was the day that I went down to get married in the temple. I was 21, pretty near 22-year-old then.
Would that have been pretty close the first time you'd ever been there?
Well, I'd been down there before, yes. We'd been down in the old Ford when Dad had the old Ford, but just one or two occasions. But Salt Lake was like going from here to Chicago because we had a horse and buggy, and it took 2 days, a day down and a day back, and you didn't do that.
Did you stay overnight down there?
I don't ever remember going down and staying in Salt Lake overnight, and I haven't done it this day. When I go and down there and come back, I didn't have any particular reason to ever had a particular reason to stay down there.
You ever ride the Bamberger down there? Or
A couple of times. Went down to Laguna and back as kids.
So you did go, did you say you did go in the horse and buggy?
I don't remember going in a horse and buggy, no. We didn't venture those long trips. Farther we used to go down to Hooper to Uncle Sam's or over down Aunt Annie's in Harrisville or things like that. It was, we didn't do too much running around until cars come in. And Dad bought that Model T Ford, and then we began to get out and do some things. And that Model T Ford was a pretty hot item in our family. And we used to, but it wasn't so hot in the wintertime when the snow got 4 feet deep. One of the most reliable things we had on the farm was good horses. And they're still the most reliable thing you got on the farm. If we'd get snow like we used to get, the horses would be, you could survive with your horses. You could go, you could get out. And they will always be the one type of transportation that can be reliable.
So before you had the cars, and they went to get provisions, went to get food and stuff at the stores or wherever, then would they go to Ogden, I suppose?
Horse and buggy.
And horse and buggy. How long would it take them to go from your house out here in Taylor up to the place, get the food, and come back?
About a half hour to get up there to go up, and they'd go up there and put the horses in the livery stables. They used to have a lot of livery stables. Right there where the Ogden Mall is, right off of Washington Down, was a big livery stable. And I forget his first name, an Anderson guy owned one. And that's where we used to go and put a horse up. He'd charge $1, $1.25, and he'd feed him while you were there. And we'd tell him what time you wanted to go home. You'd have him hooked back up in your buggy ready to go. And they used to ride up and get the groceries and shop. And then they'd go over to see Grandpa and Grandma. Maybe they'd go over there first. But Grandpa had a nice barn there, and they could put the horse and buggy up there while I was there, stay there for a couple hours, get the groceries, and come home.
So it was a half a day anyway.
Well, it was a good half a day to go up and back, yeah. But Grandpa could make it from his place on Tiles Avenue and be in our yard in 22 minutes with that horse he had. He had a big thoroughbred horse that had 5 gates. The pace, single foot, whatever.
How far away was the grocery store from where they left the horse? Did they have to carry all this stuff?
Right close. Safeway was right there. Safeway was right there, right in about 21st, 22nd, right there. Across the street was a Pickett's place, Pickett grocery store.
On the west side was here?
Yeah, right. You know where 23rd is? Right in there, right all about where 23rd is. and the delivery table was down there. There used to be a Rasmussen grain. We were talking about it the other day. Old man Rasmussen and Claire Rasmussen, and they built some apartments next to there as the time went on, and they had those. And Claire was pretty good age fella. He was up in the roof doing some work, and he fell through the roof and killed him. And he was the old man Rasmussen's son. But that's where we used to buy a lot of grain for the horses and stuff from that old man Rasmussen. I used to buy my chicken feed there. But we'd always, and as time went on, my dad had a beautiful black team. He had a Surrey that had 2 seats. 6 people could sit in it. And it had curtains on the side with 2 lights on it. And that was he always had good horses and was envied because of his horse and buggy and stuff that he had. And he always had some of the best horses in the country. That comes from the Roman side of the Italian family. That blood comes down from the Roman chariot people.
Who, you have one? Anybody else have another one?
Okay, how much did you pay for the Model T?
$700.
Wow.
He bought that Model T for $700. And he got it on a sale then. They was just coming out, and wasn't too many of them out. They was trying to get them out, and Dad dickered with him and bought it for $700. Best money he ever spent. We enjoyed that old Model T, and after Dad bought his new Essex, me and Jim we used it to go to school for 3 years. We drove it to school. And then after we got through using it in the summertime, we cut the back of it off and made a truck out of it. But the dumb thing when you had to keep it full of gas all the time, because if you went up a hill, the gas wouldn't go up. It was self-feed. That Model T, the tank was up here and the feed and the carburetor went uphill. The gas wouldn't run the carburetor. So you know how we got up the hill? We turned the damn thing around and backed it up the hill.
Now, how old would you have been when you first got the car?
I was probably about 14 or 15. We was driving it when we was kids.
So when you were, your memories of the Surrey and all that was prior to your time when you were 14?
Yeah.
I vaguely remember a story about your mom being hit by a car, being ran to the back of her legs with the car. Is that?
Yeah, but
that's later. That was after we was chasing her on together.
Oh.
Yeah, old man Larkin run into us. Cut her knee here with a glass. Me and Melba and Alice Bingham and Bernice Green were chasing around together, and he run into us and busted up Ellis's car. That's what you're talking about. That happened. All right, what's the next one?
I gave it to Suzanne, so she did get hit.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Describe getting a Christmas tree with your family as a child.
The first Christmas tree we ever had, I went out and cut a great big old weed, kind of a limb or weed, and put a thing on the bottom of it, and we made a bunch of stuff and decorated. It wasn't a Christmas tree. It was just a big, kind of like a small tree. That's the first Christmas tree we ever had, and I did that. I was about 7 years old, and we made all this crap popcorn things and put on it. I was determined to have a Christmas tree one way or the other. And then everybody will remember that tree. It was very old. I was about 6 or 8 years old.
That was your first Christmas tree.
What kind of stuff did you put on it?
Just strings of popcorn, strings of those little loot papers, and anything we could find. We didn't have ornaments, and we put candles on it. We didn't dare light them because we was afraid it'd burn up.
Do you remember any outstanding, did you ever take a trip as a family or did you do anything on summer holidays as a whole family?
We always went to tomato days at Hooper. That was a big deal. Anything that happened in the church, in the ward, we always went to those things. In fact, when we were about 13 or about 15-year-old, Dad bought a horse from Ez Hayes, because Ez Hayes, he was about 6, 8 years older than us, and he had a horse that he'd trained, and Ez was going up to Montana to work, and Walt Hayes said to my dad, he says, "Jack, I got a horse that your kids ought to have." He said, "You want to buy it?" And Dad says, "No, I got plenty of horses." And he says, "Well, I'll give the horse to you. I can't afford to keep it." Dad said, "I'll give him $20 for it." And that horse, it was fast, run, oh, it could run. And we used to go down here on 24th of July and the 4th of July. We used to go down to Jake Nielsen's corner, down by Dick Gibson's, and we'd race up that road. And we'd never get that bugger stopped. They got clear up the bridge up here on the old road. And he'd always beat. We never lost a race with him. He was a good horse, fast.
You remember much about the racetrack up here where the industrial park is now?
Yes, I've been to horse races with my dad up there when I was a kid.
What was that called?
I forget the name of it.
Original Wade Meadows?
I think it was something like Something Meadows. No, Wade Meadows was out here, but there's Something Meadows up there too. But I remember we used to go up there and watch the horse races. And it was a big round track, and you could stay up on the east side and watch those horses race clear around. And it was beveled. It was a special built, beautiful track. And I don't know why they ever let it get away. They could have made the county fairgrounds right there and made a good one with that racetrack. But
yeah, I remember as a kid seeing the hill on the
west side, north and west side.
West side of the thing. It was built up maybe 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, it was built up. They'd made it special. Yeah, and it was, you could watch those horses run around there on a turn, and you could stay up on the east side in the bleachers and watch those horses run clear around the whole race.
It's right where Great Western's sitting right now. Right where Great Western is where the hill was.
The new one?
Beautiful racetrack. Up here where the cement company is, what's the name of it? Parsons, J.B. Parsons, one of the most beautiful livestock auction barns and cattle feeding places there was in the state. And they let that get away. Just the same as the Ogden Stockyards. Beautiful place up there. And they've had a lot of good cattle. I remember going up there many times, seeing that place.
Was that, about how old were you when the Golden Spike Arena was built? You remember it being built? You would have probably, I'm sure.
Yeah, Jim and I used to show turkeys and chickens and rabbits up there every year. And we won a lot of prizes. We used to always win the egg laying contest. We had a little trick we worked. We'd take so many hens up there, like 4 or 5 hens up there. Well, in order to get extra eggs, he was credited on how many eggs those chickens laid while they were up there. So we'd pick out of the 5 hens, we'd pick 2 or 3 of them, and we wouldn't let that bugger lay an egg today. We'd keep it awake, keep it alive. We stayed up at night and keep that bugger moving so it wouldn't lay that egg for today. All right. Then when we put it in the cage, as soon as we'd take it up, we had to have it up there by 4 o'clock. And today, to start this contest, so during the night he'd lay an egg that he didn't lay today. He'd lay an egg. Well, and the next day he'd lay another egg. So we was 1 egg ahead all the time. That's how we won the contest. Nobody ever knew. We never told anybody, but that's how we used to win the contest. Keep that old hen awake and alive, going, so she couldn't lay her egg today, so she'd lay 2 tomorrow.
That's good. Okay, Susie, do you have another question? No?
We used to do some little tricks with the other stuff too that we had. We used to show geese. We used to show rabbits, chickens, One year we took up some pigs to show. We used to enter in that stock show. They knew we were there.
Hey, Grandpa. When they came out with the Model Ts and stuff, do you remember what the first speed limits were?
Speed limit, just as fast as you wanted to go.
Not that you could get it going.
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing the first speed limit?
Those things never come out until the speed limits never came out until after they began to I'd say in the late 20s, early mid to late 20s. This Ford we had was 1917 or 18 Model T. And they didn't have speed limits then and never had them until in the 20s.
Okay.
Describe a childhood Christmas.
Describe a childhood Christmas?
Yep.
Well, Christmas in those days, they didn't have, all you got is a little candy and an orange and a hunk of coal and some clothes. They always give you clothes. And whatever we had for Christmas, we had to make or do within the family ourselves. Sometimes some of the cousins would come over, or we'd go over there during Christmas Day. Depends on what day Christmas was. Come on Sunday, we go into church. But they always had Christmas programs, a lot nicer and a lot better Christmas programs than they have now. These programs they have now on Christmas is a joke compared to what they used to be.
So what were the activities like? What did you do Christmas Eve and what did you do Christmas morning?
Just play games and play with the toys, what little toys we got. Very seldom you ever got a toy. If it was why, this is toys for you and Jim. This toy's for, we used to have to share them. Or this toy's for the whole family.
Did Grandma do any special foods that you remember that you only
Always had, she was always good at making, I remember one thing they used to make was what they called a plum pudding. And she made special food of that type for Christmas. And fruit cake. She used to be good at making a fruit cake. They'd always have turkey or chicken, roasted chicken or turkey. If not that, we used to cure our own hams. Last time we'd have ham for Christmas. But I remember they had a big barrel. They'd put this pork down in and salt it and cure it, then bring it out and rub smoke on it, and it was the most delicious ham you ever ate. This ham you buy now in the stores is a joke compared to what you make.
Okay, I have one. Anybody else?
I have one. Oh. Well, you kind of already answered it, but it just said, tell about what you can remember about your baptism day.
My baptism? Wowie. It was, I was baptized I was 9-year-old. I was baptized in November, and I was baptized right down the road here, right just back of where Romney Buck lives now. J.B. Hunter had a great big cement reservoir, and I remember they took me over there, and Lloyd Hunter baptized me. I thought I was going to freeze to death. But I was baptized over there, and then I was 9-year-old before they baptized me.
Who was there? Who went to your baptism?
Just a family.
Did they have any kind of program at all, or was there anything else?
No, they confirmed you in the church the next day.
Sunday, huh?
Yep.
So were you the only one baptized at that time?
That was, I don't remember that anybody was baptized but me at that time.
Your dad was there with you?
Pardon?
Your dad was there with you?
My folks were there, yeah. Dad always supported us in the church, and he never joined the church until Giovanni was baptized. Then he joined the church.
Did he go to church with you?
Oh yes, always take us to church or go to church with us. After we got the cars, he always drove to church. After he joined the church, he moved up pretty fast. He became they baptized him, and he went from all the steps and became an elder. Then he became president of the elders quorum. Then he went on a mission for the church. Dad and Jim were missionaries together.
Where did they go?
Just the stake mission.
He actually served 2 stake missions, didn't
Yeah. He baptized his own brother into the church. Uncle Sam.
he? I remember his second stake mission. I don't remember the first one, but I remember the second stake mission.
He was responsible for getting Grover Underwood. Him and Jim worked with him, and they turned around and let Harold Buck baptize him, which was a joke.
Describe a trip to town. I know you've talked a little bit about town, but if you were to go to town, what when you were 8 or 12, 14 years old, what would you have seen up there? What would have been on the street? What kind of streets were they?
When we first used to go up to town, there was only one street that was anywhere near paved or in the hard surface at all, and that was Washington Avenue. And all the rest of the streets were dirt, gravel streets. I remember that. And Washington Avenue and 25th Street and 23rd, some of those streets going down to the train station was hard surfaced and very poorly done. But even at that, I remember I was, well, it was a bank up there called Ogden State Bank. And my Uncle Mike had a saloon down on 25th Street. My dad had some money in Ogden State Bank, and I was about 6 years old. And Uncle Mike come out. They didn't have phones then. He come out, and he said to my dad, he said, "Jack, you better go up and get your money out of the bank now, today." That was about noon. So my dad went up and drawed all the money out of the bank he had in the bank, but $100. And he got nervous about it the next morning, and he said, "Come on, Johnny, ride up with me. I'm going up and get that other $100. We went up there to the bank, and as we pulled up to where they tied the horses up, there was a lot of people out there, old ladies crying, guys fighting and quarreling and mad because they couldn't get in the bank to get their money. They'd closed the bank. A lot of people lost their herds of sheep. They lost their cattle. They lost property. When that bank closed, it just raised heck with all the people in Ogden, the county, the whole county area. And I remember seeing those old ladies fighting, quarreling, crying, and then I never forget that.
Depression, huh?
Huh?
That was the beginning of the
That's when things began to go bad. Then it got pretty good for a while. And as it built back up, then the depression really come in the late 20s, and 28, 29, and 30, and on up into the mid 30s. We didn't have money to buy clothes. Mother had to patch all our clothes and make over and buy material and make clothes. But we had a lot of food. We always had potatoes, eggs, meat, and always grew a good garden. The farmers lived well. The people that was really hurting was people who lived in town, who was depending upon jobs, and there was no jobs to be had. And then the WPA come out. They made projects for them to work. But I remember they used to have lines to go up and get rice and beans and dried plums and stuff like that. Dad went up a couple of times. He said, "Hey, we got better food here at home than he get up there." But
did people up in town, did they ever come out here and trade with you?
Those guys in the store, they'd come out and they'd bring you out. They'd trade all kind of stuff to get some food. I remember when we had doctor bills, those guys would take a turkey or ducks or chickens or eggs or anything the doctors would to get paid. They was glad to get it. Take a side of beef, take anything, get paid. They were tickled to death to get it. The doctors, the professional men were hurting because people didn't have money to pay them. And those guys would accept that stuff, lived well, as good as well as a farmer, because they were smart. They knew they had to survive, and it was a bartering thing. Bartering, you know what bartering is, don't you? I'll trade what I got for what I need. I'll trade you for what you got that I need and what I got that you need. That's bartering.
I remember when we had the cattle, when we first started the cattle operation over there, I'd gotten sick and I was still living in a duplex. And I had some problems with my legs, and so we went to an internal medicine specialist. And we were talking to him and he was saying how much it was going to cost. And there's no insurance. We were working for Giovanni. No insurance and no way to pay for anything. I think I was living in a duplex, I can't remember. I think I was. But anyway, I offered to pay this doctor with a half a beef. And he just laughed. Well, things change a lot, you know. I mean, that's the only thing I could afford to pay this guy with some cattle, and he just wouldn't take it. He wouldn't even think about it.
That's funny.
That's a long time after what you're talking about. The business district, did it kind of go from like the Ogden River down to about 26, 27th? Is that about?
Oh, up as high as Larkin or Lindquist Mortuary, up into that area. Up about 40th Street. And
Not that far, huh?
yeah, it gradually built up. Lindquist built that big place up there and things. But I remember when Childs Avenue and all those avenues east, up east and down west were pretty rough.
How about Wall Avenue? Did it come into being more?
Well, after the depot, big depot was built down there, and then they hard surfaced all those streets down there. But after you got out past about 40th and 21st, and it was gravel roads again.
Yeah. What about most of the homes that were built east or west of Wall, or west of Washington, between Washington and Wall? Were they mostly for people who worked in the railroad? And
that's where the town first started, is down there. That's where the old homes were built. Then they went up above Washington and all up in that area. And all those old good-looking homes up there, the rich people in town that made money on mining and stuff like that built those homes. And they called that Snob Hill.
So up on the hill was Snob Hill.
Snob Hill above Washington was Snob Hill.
What was Uncle Mike's saloon called? What was the name of it?
I don't remember he had two of them. He had one on Washington for a while, then he had one on 25th. He made a lot of money. He was rich one time, but he just gradually things turned bad on him, and he lost a lot of money. Somebody come and ask him for money, he'd let him have $100, $500 to help him, and a lot of those guys are dead, never did pay him back. But he was that kind of a guy. He'd help anybody that needed it.
Do you remember when the Ben Lomond Hotel was built?
Oh yeah. I worked in that place.
Interesting.
I worked up there a couple of winters, just before I was married.
Any other questions? Okay.
Do you have a favorite author or like books that you read when you were little?
Not too much. I wasn't much on that sort of thing. My reading was mostly for information. If I needed to prepare a lesson for Sunday school, or if I had some work to do for school for tests, I would read for the information. But to read somebody else's fairy tale, if it wasn't real, I didn't want to get involved in it. The church books, yes, because that was serious business. But to read fairy tales, I never cared for that.
Did they read books a lot in school?
They what?
Did they make you read books in school?
Oh yeah. And I can't speed read, but if I need to glean over a page for some information, and I'm looking for a specific thing, I can go down that page and pick whatever I want out of that page that quick. I can go through the newspaper and ads. I can go for the big nickel, and I'm looking for a particular thing like a deep freeze or something like that. I can go down that thing page after page in a hurry and grab every one of them. But the picture that I get is what I'm after. But I have wide angle vision. Anything can move over here, and I can see it. I've always had that. But as far as reading for information, that's what my reading was. But
Did your mom or dad ever read?
oh yeah, they used to read to us. Yeah, we used to have them read the funny paper to us when we was little kids. They used to take, as long as I remember, my folks used to take the paper. The paper, they used to deliver the paper on a horse or horse and buggy. And if the paper was bad, snowy, and the paperman couldn't get there, it used to make my dad mad. He didn't have the paper to read at night.
They didn't read any other books out loud to you?
Oh yeah, church books, yep.